Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel, The Life of Cam, where we embark on non traditional educational pathways to develop our skills and become the best versions of ourselves. Today's topic that I wanted to speak about is the question: are tech degrees worthless? I recently made a post to celebrate the fact that I finished my master's degree in information technology management. While most of my feedback was indeed positive, with most people telling me congratulations and saying positive things, I did have just one person actually give me negative feedback on my post. His negative feedback was essentially just telling me that degrees in tech are worthless and I wasted my time with my education. My credential means nothing, and that if I want to have any sort of success in the tech industry, that I need to learn skills online versus just trying to get degrees that he deemed worthless. I did not think everything he said was right. I will say everything he said wasn't necessarily wrong, but I wanted to make a video that gives a clear picture on value of tech degrees and to determine if tech degrees are actually worth it for the roles that many of us plan to pursue. Now, prior to actually determining if tech degrees are worthless, the first question I'll have to ask myself is, are college degrees overall worth it? So, first place I went to was the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with, a government agency that provides statistics on a lot of data related to the American population and our various subgroups. Now, this data here perfectly illustrates how much money people make on average per week at each level of education. And as you do see, the more education people get, the more money they tend to make. And also, it also does show that the more education people get, the lower their unemployment rate. And also, it does show you that workers on average make about $1,057 a week, at an average unemployment rate of 4.7% for the year 2021. Those who do get a bachelor's degree, which is the most common degree, they're much less likely to be unemployed than somebody who would say just has a high school diploma only. I will also say keep in mind that these data and statistics are for people that are over the age of 25 and that are full wage salary workers. Now, there are some arguments that can be made on both sides, since the primary reason why people say earning college degrees is not worth it is since you accumulate a ton of debt, and if you get a degree in a low earning field, it may not be worth it. So, like, use an example like liberal arts and humanities degrees, where, if I'm not mistaken, most people go on to only make maybe $30,000 to $40,000 a year. And for most, would consider that to not be worth it, since you can easily get a job making $15 to $20 an hour without actually getting a college degree. But also, I would say not even this the best degree in the world. Like if somebody got like a computer science or engineering degree or a finance degree, something like that, where people tend to make a lot of money, I would say an average degree, you're more likely to make about $500 more a month than somebody who never went to college at all. The one downside that people might try to point out is that people with a bachelor's degree, which typically takes about 5 years to earn on average, more than likely have accumulated somewhere around $100,000 in debt from student loans and things of the such. But the question becomes, despite the debt that they accumulate, is the return on investment much better than if they would have never went to college at all? I would say this is probably a yes. The reason I think this is a yes, at least going from a high school diploma to a bachelor's degree, is primarily because due to the fact that people with a bachelor's degree on average will earn about around $25,000 to $30,000 more a year than somebody with just a high school diploma. And if, let's say, somebody from age 25 to 65, if somebody was to earn $30,000 a year on average more, that will mean that the person with a bachelor's degree on average in their lifetime will earn $1.2 million in their lifetime, working more than somebody with just a high school diploma. And if they accumulated $100,000 in debt and got a $1 million return over their lifetime, I would say that's a great deal. Now, I will say, while the amount of money people make goes up, the higher the ladder they climb, all the way up until they are receiving professional degrees and doctoral degrees. I will say, in my opinion, it's debatable. It's because sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not, because you do accumulate a lot more debt, and the amount of difference in salary that you make is not as significant, especially taking out things like Grad Plus loans, going $200,000 plus a year in debt just to make a little bit more money past the bachelor's degree level. That's why I would say is debatable. We see that earning a bachelor's degree is better at an average institution is better than somebody who never attended college at all. Since there are career paths that people can take without a degree at all, and then of course there are career paths that people can take through education that can lead to them making six figures plus a year. But I will say one flaw of both sides is they typically rely on outliers when proving their point. Oftentimes, people who are anti-college usually pinpoint people typically who in celebrity or athletics, say like Eminem, who's went on to making $100 million net worth without ever even finishing high school. While people on the other end of the spectrum who are pro-college will typically pinpoint like doctors and lawyers and like presidents, former presidents and politicians who achieved high levels of education. So even though while it is more realistic than the other side, but now that we answer the question, is a degree worth it on average? So now this is definitely a yes. The next question I will ask is, are tech degrees actually worth it? The reason why this question came up was due to the fact there are people who are getting into tech without actually getting a degree at all or having less than a bachelor's degree. When it comes to a lot of industries where you can break into tech without a bachelor's degree, I wanted to look at, once again, both sides of the argument. So the first side I would look at, I wanted to do this by first reviewing quickly, briefly skimming over and reviewing two articles that I read previously. So this first article that I'm going to indulge in is from CompTIA, and it's titled Getting into IT Without a Degree. CompTIA is an accredited agency that provides certifications for people who are trying to get into tech. Now, in this article, they proceed to explain that getting into IT without a college degree is not that challenging. 25% of people, you see it right here, who are working in tech do not have a bachelor's degree or higher, which means while most people do have a bachelor's degree, it is not required, and according to them, you can get into tech without it. And their argument is that jobs typically care about people who have the necessary skills in order to get hired. I will say their perspective, I do agree with it. Well, while I've never seen somebody only get CompTIA certifications in order to get employment, I kind of saw a combination, in most cases, people doing education, getting certifications like this, as well as internships in order to get employment. So I do respect their perspective, and I don't think they're necessarily incorrect by any means. The next perspective I wanted to look at was by utilizing an article from school that I'm alumni from, that I got my tech degree from, which was Western Governors University. Western Governors University, their article is a computer science degree worth it. They just speak about all the benefits from having a tech degree and how with this degree you can go on to working jobs where you can make in excess of six figures. You have a lot of options and the job outlook is extremely high. They speak about all these different things and a whole bunch of different jobs you can get. A few jobs that I'm interested in, like business analyst and a data scientist. But I will keep in mind for both that they're essentially what they're doing is they're both technically trying to sell you something. It's a value proposition for you to take on their education service, so that way they can make, even though the school is not for profit, so that way they can get the money from you in order to bolster their numbers of people who completed their program. Now that you got both of these two different perspectives, I will say that I agree with both perspectives, saying that having both the certification and the education is good. Now, the next factor I would like to use to determine if indeed a tech degree is worth it or not are to look at some of the popular job positions that a lot of people get into. So the first career path that I wanted to look at was help desk. So for doing so, I'm going to a website called Zippia.com. Zippia.com is a website that provides a lot of information regarding careers and as well as data and statistics as far as how many people are in the industry, job availability, as well as skills, education, and certifications you will need in order to get into different jobs in the sector. Now, the first job I wanted to look at, is, like I just said, is help desk. Help desk is typically what I would call an entry-level role that people usually try to get in when they first get into the tech industry. I will say, me personally, I did not take this path. My pathway into tech was becoming a database administrator in the military. And of course, my next step I plan to take is to pivot once I am out into a new career path. Now, for help desk, it says that 48% of help desk technicians have a bachelor's degree and 35% hold an associate's degree, which means I will say having a bachelor's degree to do help desk is not necessary, since most people who are applying for these roles and positions do not have a bachelor's degree at all. In order to get in, they most likely will just need a combination of certifications like CompTIA and CCNA in order to get into these different roles. The next position I'm going to look at and showcase is data analyst. So this is actually a job career I'm looking into pivoting into that I have a lot of interest in. Now for data analysts, it shows right here that 65% of data analysts have a bachelor's degree and 15% hold a master's degree, which means I will say around 20% of people not having a bachelor's degree at all. I will say that is decent because it does show to be a data analyst, you do not have to have a bachelor's degree in order to get in. But even though you don't have to, most of the people you compete with will have at least a bachelor's degree, and a decent chunk of them will also have a master's degree, which means it may be helpful if you get a bachelor's degree to complement any skills and experiences that you have. The next career, which is I will say one of the most popular in this career right here, is being a software engineer. Software engineer, I've seen a lot of people advertise in boot camps recently actually saying, hey, you can pay money for this boot camp and then you can get into a career as a software engineer. I was curious, do people absolutely have to have a bachelor's degree to become a software engineer? So now, according to Zapier, as you see here, it says 73% of software engineers have a bachelor's degree and 20% hold a master's degree. So yes, it's something you could do. You can become a software engineer without a degree, but it is very uncommon, which means most people who think that they can get into this career path without one, I would say in most cases, it is not realistic. Once again, you're competing with people where the majority, nearly 3/4, have at least a bachelor's degree. And also, I will point out one thing I noticed, that as I look at these different jobs and roles, the more money the jobs pay on average, the higher tendency for people to have higher levels of education. So I know help desk roles pay the least of the first three positions I've shown, and software engineers pays the most of the first three careers that I've shown, which does show that if you're looking to get job positions and roles that pay more money, it does look like it's best for you to eventually get a degree. Now, the last role I would like to look at is a security analyst. So the reason why I chose this one is because I know a lot of people want to get into cybersecurity, that often that take when trying to get in, since I know that cybersecurity is very hot right now. Now, for a security analyst, it does say here that 62%, or a little bit over 3/5, have a bachelor's degree and 20% hold an associate's degree, which means that if somebody's trying to be a security analyst, they're competing with people who most of the time will have a bachelor's degree. And then even a lot of them will also have an associate's degree, which means furthering your education through college may be a good idea. But I will say that I do know somebody who is a security analyst, and for them, when they got the role in a position, they did not have their bachelor's degree. But even though they got into the role without their bachelor's degree, they ultimately did earn their bachelor's degree, which is going to probably help them out later when competing with people for different positions of the such. So now, looking at all these different numbers and data and statistics, I think a lot of us got the full picture and scope of the value of tech degrees and if they're worth it. So my conclusion that I reached is yes, tech degrees are worth it in 2023. But while tech degrees are not worthless, it is best to get a tech degree in order to remain competitive and then also developing your skills as well. But I will say, just having a degree alone is not enough. You will also need to have various skills and experience, which can be gained through certifications and internships and creating project portfolios. The person who told me my degree was worthless, he was wrong about that part. No, my degree was not worthless, and other people who earn tech degrees, no, your degrees are also not worthless. Those of you who are interested in furthering your education by earning a tech degree to help yourself break into different tech roles and positions, yes, going to college and furthering your education is a great idea, especially if you're not going to accumulate any debt in the process. But while that is true, you do not have to have a degree to break in, but to move up in tech, I think that earning a bachelor's degree is a good idea. All right, so thank you for taking the time out to listen to my video. If you enjoyed my content, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for future content that I plan to release. Thank you and have a nice day.